Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Heather, and thanks for the opportunity. Yes, Heather and I came across this challenge that we saw that looked at the environment and what are the issues around the environment. But then it gave us an opportunity for Rotary to do something about it. Now, I played a third of this video clip at the recent district executive, and at an AG's meeting last week, I played the rest of it, so that very few people have actually seen the whole video. It's a 6-minute video clip. I'll play the whole clip and then we can take any questions or whatever after it. Hopefully it'll inspire something. So is that showing? Stop sharing it there. So it really inspired me to see that, where just by improving our own health or getting extra steps into our lives, we can get trees planted for nothing. We can plant mangroves, we can create employment, and we can help coastal erosion. And I think there's something in there that says clubs can compete against one another. And when I showed it to the assistant governors last week, they're fancying an inter-area challenge. At the moment, we're setting up all the clubs in the Treekly app. So it's Treekly. Download the app onto your phone, link it with whatever it is that counts your steps. And for nothing, if you do 5,000 steps a day, you'll get a tree planted each week. I was so inspired. I actually put up a challenge when we said, this is an inter-district, whatever. Being a wee bit, what was the word you used, Heather?
Overly competitive?
Overly competitive, what you said. I've put down a challenge to all other districts saying we're going to beat them. Now, whether we do or not, it was just a bit of fun, but they're taking it seriously. At the moment, and I think over the next 10 days, all the clubs will be loaded in so you can link up in the app to your club and count all the trees to yourselves. And we'll see if we can set up inter-area. You can do it inter-club, and we'll certainly have it inter-district. At the end of the day, the world benefits. And I'm really happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ken. I've already planted 5 trees. It's given me a target for my steps as well, so I can highly recommend it.
Yes, Kath.
Yeah, Kath.
Sorry, saves me writing to you. When are you writing out to clubs to tell them about this?
We'll write out once it's in the once we've got them all loaded into the app, Kath. So that should be the next 10 days.
Okay.
One of the significant problems is finding places to plant them, surely. You do need planning permission for larger areas.
At the moment, they're all being planted as mangrove, and they're being planted in Madagascar, which is really coastal.
So you're not talking about local planting, it's on a global basis.
Absolutely looking at on a global scale, and where not only where it can do best for the environment and some of the coastal erosion, it can also provide employment where that's desperately needed. And the mangrove they're planting, as it said in the app, is taking out 4 or 5 times the amount of CO2 from a tree that we would get in the UK. Doesn't stop us still doing trees in the UK. And I heard somebody, was it up in Glentana, doing trees?
Yeah. I think it sounds fun and great, and a great thing to do. Some of us don't have mobile phones, apps, or anything to count steps other than the old-fashioned. How many was that? One foot in front of the other. But it sounds something that I think we should be getting involved in as a global challenge. Yes.
Yep.
And that would augment the work that I hope we're all doing locally to move forward with tree planting in our own areas.
Yeah. Now,
Alistair, great turf, Ken.
Yes.
Could this be a bit confusing, because there is at the moment, and turf is involved in planting trees for a Queen's Canopy. This is a totally different thing altogether, is it?
This is completely different from that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight
Yes.
as well, so which maybe helps to kind of draw the distinction. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe one of the things we should look at is, you know, when we're having Christmas trees, a real Christmas tree, maybe we should make sure we have it with its root and plant it.
Yeah.
So we have a permanent Christmas tree in our garden.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when Heather called me ultra competitive, just in case Forest don't win, I've actually given my phone to the postie, so he can get a few steps in as well every day.
We're teamed up with the Irish as well, you know, so I think it could happen for us.
I think Hugh was wanting to speak, Heather.
Hugh.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if there was potential to involve local schools in this
Absolutely.
And
There's no reason why not. If your club wants to engage a local school and bring that into it, absolutely do it.
Yeah.
And
The other thi-
that means I need to get the 4 local schools here and involved as well, just in case we get beat by you.
there is also a membership development opportunity as well, and a Rotary awareness raising opportunity, because you can gift trees to non-Rotarians to kind of get them started, and you can associate that with Rotary. This is all in the guidance that will come out to clubs in the next wee while, isn't it, Ken?
Yes, indeed.
How do you get access to the film, Ken, that you've just shown us?
I'll get a link put. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the chat.
Aye, and also we'll put it in the district YouTube channel, and we'll include the link there, and
That'll
the
be fine.
information that comes out to clubs as well. Thanks, Alistair. And then Alistair Risk wanted to come in as well.
Yeah, I was sailing along quite happily with everything, and then I suddenly got very confused there. This is an international thing where we're majoring on planting mangroves on coastal areas and probably in some other third world countries. If we start involving our schools and all sorts of other organizations within our own catchment area, I do see confusion and a competitive nature between, for instance, the Green Canopy thing. We've already got 7 schools involved in planting between 500 and 1,000 trees each over the next year. We've already committed ourselves to planting between 1,000 and 2,000 trees as a club. And we are involved with other organizations in making that happen, which means that we can't get environmental grants from foundation, but we can get the trees for nothing from the Green Canopy and so on. If we start trying to ask them to do those things as well as that thing, we're going to end up with clashes of interest, I think.
I think what we've got to do is make sure we explain it properly to them. What we're saying here is, by taking steps, others will plant the trees for you at no cost.
Mhm.
So it's complementary.
And there's no financial commitment at all from those people that do the walking or running or whatever.
Only if they want to buy extra trees. But the actual do 5,000 steps 5 times a week, get you a tree. That costs 0.
I mean, if people that have got running clubs and walking clubs and that sort of thing, there's great potential there, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something that is actually within the club, you know, something that you do almost as a kind of team building. But, you know, so, I mean, essentially each of us, you know, by planting 20 trees a month, you're capturing 1,000 kilograms of CO2. So, and the interesting thing on the app is it shows you whether you're climate negative or climate positive as an individual. Then there are opportunities to kind of, you know, build that up as a club. But there's certainly no cost for being involved in that, and it would be great to be seeing that across the areas and across the district. But I do also really like, you know, the 60 trees, you know, get given to existing Rotarians who are in your team in the league. So it gives you a good start. You can 10 trees to gift to people in the local community as a way of introducing them to Rotary. So the circumstances, I think, Alistair, will depend on what you're already doing, if anything. I think the more that we have on the menu of choices for clubs to do things that fit with whether they're a smaller club or a bigger club, or they do have stuff going on already or not, it's just really just to give options for clubs to get involved. Phil?
If this costs nothing initially, who is actually paying for the trees? And are we just, are they really hoping that people will buy extra ones? I mean, will these trees that we're getting for free be planted anyway?
I don't know if they'll be planted anyway. Possibly they are. But a bit of competition, a bit of health, a bit of everything else to go with it. I think it's just a great opportunity.
I agree. I think it does sound interesting. I was just curious as to how it goes from free to purchasing things.
I think it's like all things where there are apps, there's an opportunity to purchase if people want to. If people feel guilty for not doing their 5,000 steps a day, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Sorry, Heather.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say there's two things there. One is, as an individual, you know, you can purchase. But the wider issue about where the trees are coming from is that each week there's a sponsor for the trees. So, like, for example, however many trees are planted as a result of the app this week will be bought and planted by the Woodlife Project, for example, which makes kind of eco-friendly practical wooden products for the family home. So each week there is a private sponsor. So the trees are getting bought for planting, and they're getting planted presumably through a partnership that makes that happen. But the funding comes from a different eco-friendly, environmentally friendly company each week. And there's no charge for the individual or the club, as Ken says, except the really, really competitive ones like Ken, obviously.
Heather,
And it's
can I mention, it just concerns me, is there some organization of the planting of these trees? I mean, are we planting them in parks or where? Otherwise, it's going to be, you know, we can't have trees planted anywhere.
No, I mean, I think we need to separate this out from our normal sort of view of tree planting, don't we, Ken? Yes. We are not doing this directly. Local community organisations are not doing this directly. This is a global initiative planting mangrove trees in other parts of the world where mangrove trees are needed planted and replaced. Right. They are only planted where they are needed.
This is a whole RI initiative. It's not an RIBI initiative.
It's a Rotary Great Britain and Ireland one, Ken, is it?
It is at the moment. It was brought in with one of our fellow DGEs, Ian Elliott, brought it to us. So at the moment, it's Britain. There's no reason why it can't go global. No, absolutely. But the planting of the trees is organised on a global scale and funded across sponsors from across the world. David Fryer.
Found a button. Thanks. I believe that point's now been made clear. It's better if we think of this as a kind of international project rather than an environmental project. Yeah. And that emphasis, because I think there's a great interest and a desire to want to plant trees locally and make a local impact, which also then leads me on to my next point is got to be very good at knowing what trees go where. So for example, where I am, I know where some of you are, we're in a coastal setting. Therefore, it's a very corrosive environment and some trees just don't survive. And now add that to the devastation that the storms have caused, which have wiped out vast areas of trees. Then you also get the stories about trees that have been put in the wrong place and they just don't survive. So that's the bit where we need to get smarter and wiser about what we do. And a small practical question is, how are you measuring 5,000 steps? Like, unless you've got a gadget to do that, how do you know what you're doing?
You need an electronic gadget to do it. And that's just one of these prerequisites. That's why it'll be for some people and it won't be for others. But you can link it up to your phone or all sorts of different devices, Ken, can't you?
Mine's done on my phone. Yeah,
and mine's is done on my watch. So, and I know that Malcolm wants to come in, and I think you're right about how we position this. This is just another thing that clubs and Rotarians might want to get involved in. I think your points about the planting of trees are well made, where we as Rotarians and Rotary clubs are directly involved in purchasing and planting trees, which again is related to other types of projects that we're doing or planning. Malcolm, we're going to come on to your stuff. Is this about the Treekly bit?
Yeah, it's just to make the point that I think mangrove and mangrove planting was our feature of COP26. Yeah. And so there's a continuation, a joining up of the dots of what was discussed in Glasgow last month is now following through. As far as the trees and the suitability of trees are concerned, local councils tend to employ tree experts. Yeah. The guy in Angus is called Fred the Tree, and he will advise as to where to plant and what to plant. And the other, just throw in for conversation, mangroves are more effective than trees. Seagrass is much more effective than mangroves. And there are seagrass projects, blue carbon, around the coast of Scotland. And I just wonder if that's something that you'd be interested in me investigating a bit further and bringing back a report to district on it, perhaps via the 1010 vision.
I think that would be great. I mean, my sense of it is that we should be doing as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's certainly obviously what Rotary International, what we're committing to with the 7th area of focus. And again, I think clubs are looking for just practical ideas which are tried and tested and they know are going to make a positive difference. So yeah, anything that you can help with, I'm sure would be helpful. Malcolm. Any other, was that coming to the end of,
could I mention, also one of that has been discussed on the television agricultural programs recently, that there's more trees required to be planted along riverbanks to protect the fish. And this could be a project in Scotland.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if that's something which is indigenous to Scotland as a particular issue, I mean, it would be great to get your advice in and around what we might want to be advising to clubs as priority areas, Malcolm, as well. A bit like you're saying about the seagrass, that's another example, isn't it? You know, where we might want to focus our attention, you know, as clubs based on either, you know, geographical issues. I guess we could advise on a Scotland, you know, what's relevant in terms of Scotland and what particularly is relevant in terms of our district. But I suspect these issues are mainly localised as well, aren't they, about what's particularly relevant, depending on the kind of makeup.
I think one of the important things about tree planting in watersheds is to reduce flooding downstream and to avoid coastal, field erosion, where trees have been taken away from the edges of fields and the soil is running off into the rivers, causing silt up and causing flooding. But that's a separate issue.
There's also the opportunity for linking with the National Trust, because they've had some pretty devastating tree felling through the storms.
That's right, and it's also just that wider point about Rotary working in partnership on things that are really, really important. So yeah, no, I agree with that. John, you wanted to come in?
just one thing really, on going back to the schools on this one, whether they're still doing it, I don't know. There was the health and well-being initiative that they started a walk a mile. Now, if schools are doing the walk a mile thing still, they could incorporate that with the 5,000 steps, and it wouldn't make any extra impact on what they're doing in schools. But you could tie it in.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So they may want to incorporate that as part of the same thing. If they still doing it.
Picking up on that, when they're having a conversation locally. Okay, right. So thanks, Ken, for presenting that. Thanks everybody for your questions. We're trying to just kind of give a wee menu of things, and we've got all sorts of really helpful information and guidance, Ken, haven't we? Which will come out to clubs. Are we saying to clubs to look for that in the vision, or?
I would aim to get it. We're not going to get it in this vision, but we'll get it in the next for sure. And I'm just looking for the link, and I would put it in the chat just now. But I'll also load that video onto YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Right. Great. Okay. And thanks for the conversation and the questions around all that. So, Malcolm's also got a couple of things to chat to us about, some interesting ideas. We had, in advance of this, Malcolm had a bit of an exchange about the Queen's Green canopy. Did you want to say something about that, or did you want me to do that? How would you like to do that?
Well, can I go first and then you chip in what I'm missing?
Yeah, that would be brilliant. And if you could leave me with nothing to chip in, that would be even better. Thank you.
Right, let me see if I can get this up and running. Okay, the Queen's Green Canopy. The first thing to say to you is that there's a website appropriately entitled the Queen's Green Canopy. And if you have a look at that website, you can get a whole lot of information. I spoke today to the secretary to the Lord Lieutenancy in Angus, and so I'm able to give you a kind of update there. Now, this is locally as to what's happening as far as the green canopy in Angus is concerned. I'll get that picture out of the way. It's council directed. There's been a local arrangement to supply trees via the offshore sea green wind turbine project in consultation with Angus Council and Lord Lieutenancy. It's possible to apply for trees via the likes of the Woodland Trust or OVO Electricity or through the Green Canopy website. But, and this is the rub, Angus Council have decided they want mature air trees as opposed to whips. So the cost of each tree being planted will multiply considerably. The Green Canopy has a website showing tree planting maps, and the Lord Lieutenancy will not provide trees. They have no money, but they will provide a plaque. So that'll presumably absorb a lot of CO2. But that's just a kind of overview of what's happening here. It seems to me that this really, at the end of the day, as far as Rotary is concerned, is a project directed by your local council and their views on what's going to be happening. And also to pick up on David's point about the suitability of particular trees in particular areas. The other thing that the girl I spoke to today said was that they're allowing hedges to become part of the green canopy as well. So if you have an area where you would like to see a hedge planted, then that too could be part of the green canopy project. So that's basically all I've got to say about the green canopy. Check the website, work with your local council, apply for trees, but in some cases, the council want maturer trees. I have 300 trees coming on the 1st of March from OVO. I applied to OVO Electricity via the Conservation Trust volunteers. Not that I'm a member, I just pinched their website details. So they're coming, but they're coming as whips. And so they'll have to be planted, they'll have to be protected, and they'll have to be staked. And then they'll have to be maintained over a period of time. So, you know, this is a tree is not just for Christmas. A tree is for a long-term project. So I'll stop sharing that at the moment. Heather, if you want to come back in and say what I've missed.
I wouldn't have thought you'd missed anything at all. I mean, I know the Woodland Trust had something like 3 million trees, didn't they?
Yeah.
For planting for the green canopy. I don't know where they are on that sort of supply, because it was
got
first come, first served.
Trees for delivery on the 1st of March. You can apply to the Woodland Trust for trees for delivery for the 1st of March. Now, an important thing to say about the Woodland Trust is that at the moment, when they send out their tree protectors for their whips, basically they're just polished plastic spirals and a garden cane. I mean, I live at 600 feet. A plastic spiral and a garden cane isn't necessarily the best means to protect a tree, but you can, if there are trees planted locally, you can acquire protectors, you can acquire solid stakes and things like that. And I believe that from the end of this year, the Woodland Trust are not going to be providing plastic tree protectors, but they're going to be providing protectors made either from sheep's wool or from cardboard. So they'll be much more environmentally friendly, which is a positive as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the trees are normally about, what, £1.50? Something like that, aren't they? They're quite affordable.
Yeah, I think I bought 110. I'd gone on holiday and bought 110 to offset the flight, and it was about £100. But that didn't include protectors, and that didn't include stakes. I acquired them.
I acquired them in the way that Rotarians acquire things.
No, I recycled. That's a better word to use.
Fantastic. I mean, my sense is that quite a few clubs have already got engaged with this. I mean, obviously, it's much wider than Rotary. You know, it's youth groups, you know, schools, care homes, businesses. It's a whole, that's the beauty of it. But I do think it is a great way or a great opportunity for awareness raising, isn't it?
Yeah.
In relation to Rotary and our commitment to the environment, and it is getting coordinated, as you say, through the Lord Lieutenants, most of whom wrote to me at some point about this. Yeah.
There's a Rotary district in England that has a license to some kind of GPS mapping system where they can indicate where every tree is planted. Apparently it's something used by the American military that's available for, you have to pay the license, and ESRAG, GB and I are looking at getting a license. So
this
that's
isn't the one where you put 3 random words in, is it?
No, that's
No,
to find
that's
out.
not that.
That's where you lose your car, to find out where it is. Where is car?
Yeah. No, that's another one, but I'll note that one too. Given the amount of club visits I do, that's always good.
I'll put a note in 1010 Vision once I have a link to the website in England of the English district.
That would be good. This is all just about sharing experience and coming up with ideas. Has anybody got questions or comments?
Alistair Gray, Turfin District here, Heather. We have been looking into the trees for the Queen's Canopy, and in fact we have been told this last week that we are getting trees. So it hadn't taken all that long. It's only taken about a month, 5 weeks since we applied to be told that we are getting. We're getting, I think, 200 and something, which we have earmarked a site, and then we have 40 trees, rowans and other berry trees, which we will be planting in small areas throughout the town. And that is for March.
Great, thanks for the update. Really appreciate that. It's good to see all of this kind of getting going. And if it's not something that your club's chatting about at this moment in time, then inquiries to Malcolm. Malcolm, you did a really good note previously in the vision, which is really comprehensive, that we put in between us, and I've popped some of the details, including the queensgreencanopy.org website, into the chat for anybody who's not got up to speed. And I think pretty much everything is on the website, really, Malcolm, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
To find out more. Pretty comprehensive.
If in doubt, phone the Lord Lieutenancy.
Yeah.
You know, phone their secretary.
Yeah.
Can I talk about something else?
You can. I'm just making sure that we're not got anybody who wants to come on the Queen's Green Canopy. No, it looks like this is a pretty well-informed group on the Queen's Green Canopy to me. So onwards and upwards then.
I want to just talk briefly about Operation Pollination. Operation Pollination is a project that's come out of America, and it's, as it says, it's about planting pollinators. Clubs are invited to do a pollinator resolution. Now, this is not rocket science. What we've done in Kerry is the members of the Rotary Club of Kerrymuir recognise the importance of pollinator habitat, and we wish to see it being created, restored and maintained. 2, working with community organisations, individuals, etc. And then we talk about the loss to butterflies and so on. And we resolve to take a lead in encouraging voluntary and collaborative community engagement and cooperation in creating pollinator areas in gardens and open spaces and in and around the town of Kerrymuir. And we're joining up the local church as an area. There's a group in Kerry called Sustainable Kerrymuir who are planting out the area, and they've joined us. And I just wonder, there is no district in the UK yet joined Operation Pollination, but how folk would feel about 1010 joining Operation Pollination. It costs nothing other than planting some flowers and things, and generally about being aware of pollination and pollinator loss locally, nationally and globally.
Well, sounds really interesting. What do folks think?
I'm biased because I'm in Kirriemuir and I think it's a good idea.
Thanks, Philip. Philip votes yes.
My sense from clubs is, you know, anything that people can do that they have the capacity to do. The will is definitely there, the commitment's definitely there. And if it's not something that really has any major cost attached to it, there's really no reason why we couldn't at least have it as something that we get information out to. What I do feel is people are, sometimes clubs are struggling for, you know, what's the best thing to do. So I think putting these things out there as options is going to be incredibly helpful, but I suspect they'll all be received very positively by clubs. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Heather, can I ask him, can this be the Operation Pollination? Can this be for individuals as well?
Absolutely.
Non-riparians?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's for the community, I think, Robin. One of the things that we're looking at in Kerry is getting bee-friendly bus stops. So the bus stop roof will be planted out. We're not involved in it, but I know that a group are. It's you know, as limited imaginatively as your imagination is. Plant wherever.
Thank you.
And up here in Sutherland, our tree planting, where it's the small copses or just the odd tree in village settings, the majority of them, it's been suggested that we will simultaneously plant a raised bed of some sort for flowers or possibly vegetables, and take advantage of the hedging that the Green Canopy is offering, which is all the majority of those, the content of which seem to be flowering as well. That we put a little hedge and so on, so that it's three things that all go together. And in the bigger setting where we're taking over an industrial site along with other organizations, we will be including that and encouraging people to have beehives. So it all works together.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alistair. David Fryer and then Steve Wright.
Yes, thank you. Malcolm, I know we picked this up somewhere, but how much does your idea need a Rotary lead as opposed to perhaps somebody else has got the lead and Rotary locally supports? So
it's both and, David.
What's your thoughts and advice on that here?
It's both and. If there's somebody locally who's doing it, then the club, from a community focus point of view, could say, right, can we help publicise this, for example? Or could we get a speaker to talk about it? Or could we actually get involved in doing some related planting? And if there's somebody in the club who's keen to get involved, then let them do it. So it's really a both and. At the end of the day, what's important, I think, is the green stalk and the flower at the top. How it gets there is really just, it's a collective way of getting the stuff planted.
Yeah, and working in partnership is a way to kind of, you know, grow Rotary as well, isn't it? And to increase the capacity that we've got to do good in the community. Steve?
Yeah, as we were distributing the crocus corms over the autumn, we got quite a good reaction to them from the schools. We're getting to both our primary schools in our area, and I know that both schools are involved in growing plants in the schools themselves, but it would be quite easy to seed wild seeds around the village and get the kids involved with those. There was actually something coming from, I think it was Home Base. They were doing very discounted wild seeds for planting, but for some reason or other, the supplies dried up quite early, so we didn't manage to get any of them.
There was an idea came out of our GB&I to plant 1 billion seeds, but I think it was somebody had the idea and ran with it and didn't realise there was a complete environmental structure within our GB&I and Great Britain, both through the district environment officers and also through ESRAD. But I mean, they are promoting that as well. I think it's one of those, as Heather says, it's a collective, and you can approach it from as many different angles as possible. The important thing is to try and do something about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Hugh.
Many thanks, Heather. An observation, actually, more than anything else. We come under Stirling Council. Bridgeville and Dunblane comes under Stirling Council. And I've been noticing for the last year or so that our bus stops, our bus shelters are being planted. And I had no idea why, but I've learned that tonight. So it does happen. They are doing it, and it's not Rotary, it's a local authority. But anyone who thinks it's a daft idea, I don't think it is, because it does seem to work. And it's
many years ago, the Rotary Club of Kirriemuir put in wildflower planters into the 2 local primary schools in the town, and they've just kind of chuntered on now. But I mean, planting in a project linking with your local primary school, whether or not it's got a Rota Kids group, would be a possible way of working. I saw your hand up there, Alistair, so I thought I'd preempt.
We already have these as well. We have street planters in Dunblane. Bridgevalley don't seem to like them, but they've got their own. But that's a Rotary project. We already do that.
It's like too down at the allotments in Bridgevalley, you know, if you could encourage the allotment holders just to have a strip of wildflowers.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that is incredibly accessible as well, what you're talking about, isn't it? Because anything that's scalable, you know, it's something every club can get involved in. It's something every community can get involved in. I love these things that you can be, you know, you can make a real impact as an individual, you know, and as a club and as a district. I mean, it's a bit, that's why the Treekly thing's so attractive as well. All of these things that are scalable. Thanks for that, Hugh. Alistair.
The reason I put my hand up was not to plug Rota Kids this time, honestly. But on the pollination side of things and involving schools and children, one of the things that we've done is we've helped 2 of our local schools to co-funding the purchase of polytunnels for them. And that way they're actively involved in bringing on these plants and can slot in with things that we do, and we can slot in with things that they do to make sure that flowers and whatnot are around the community. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but they are, to get the rigid ones as opposed to the polytunnel, I forget what they're called. I think they cost just over £1,000. So if you can do a 3-way thing with parent teachers, another organisation, and yourselves, there's the whole thing, and they're huge, and they can be used for all sorts of teaching purposes as well as that.
That's a great idea as well. Thanks, Alistair. And I mean, there's an educational element to that as well, isn't there? By getting the sort of young people involved and actually kind of getting things to kind of grow and also the environmental impact of that. Thanks for that. Alistair, can you pop your hand down because my mouse has stopped working?
The other thing to say, Heather, is that all of us who have got grass gardens could just allocate an area of grass and don't cut it, but plant wildflowers in it. You know.
Yeah,
so
there's
just
a sort of rewilding, isn't there? There's a kind of rewilding, yeah. And John Milne wants to come in, and then I know Malcolm wants to speak to us about another thing as well, just before we finish tonight. John.
Can I just touch on a theme and see what people feel? One of the bits that strikes me, going back to Ken's presentation, and that sense of you could be, you know, like some kind of inter-club, or it could be inter-area. And it strikes me that in terms of the wider theme of the environment, how can we go forward in such a way that you'll have, what I pick up sometimes is a real resistance around individual Rotarians and clubs because they see something as being district directed, and district won't tell us what to do. And the dilemma of that is if the club doesn't embrace it, we'll lose Rotarians within individual clubs who are very keen to be part of a project but aren't being supported by their clubs because their clubs are not adopting it. Now, I know that's a very wide theme for tonight, but I just wonder if anybody's got thoughts or have been able to do that in some way by either connecting clubs or finding a way around that. Do you know what I'm coming at?
Oh, yes, I do. I definitely do. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, clubs are autonomous. I mean, I think our job is very much about supporting clubs to deliver on their priorities, and the clubs should take a view on what's most important to them. I think what these opportunities offer is kind of food for thought, ideas that clubs can hopefully embrace or not. In terms of some clubs doing it, other clubs not doing it, we'll always get that. But I do think that what we're trying to do, and Ken might want to say something about this, is very much connect the wider district team into clubs via the assistant governors and directly to clubs, but essentially just strengthening those connections. But nothing about what district does out with anything which is about basic compliance, about being a Rotary club, is actually prescriptive or presented as such. I think would be my take on it, which can be helpful and unhelpful in terms of the issue that you are raising, John, but I also think is incredibly important. It's the nature of it. Ken, do you want to say anything?
I'm more than happy to add. I was wondering exactly the same, John, and when we showed the video clip to the assistant governors, I was kind of in the same, a bit of trepidation, would it be whatever? And it was exactly the opposite. That all of them were saying, oh, I think we can have a bit of competition here between the areas, for example. And that means they now need to go and take that and share that down with the clubs, with the club presidents. So the clubs then, and even the Rotarians themselves, get the opportunity, and we're going to reinforce that with the article and the vision and invite people to come along. Even if your club's not doing it, go and do it for the greater good. So
yeah, you get the individual opportunity. Yeah. And you're still contributing to district, but district aside, we're all still contributing to the 7th area of focus as Rotarians as well. I think in terms of the area that we're discussing tonight. I mean, I think that clubs can work within areas, they can work across areas, you can work with clubs anywhere in the world. That's the beauty of Rotary, anywhere in the district and beyond. And I think we're just working to encourage as much of that as possible and how to facilitate that. So Malcolm, we come to your final bit of input tonight, and then we'll bring our session to an end. I love the Operation Pollination as well, so love that.
The other idea is called Solar Safe Water Challenge, which is coming out of Denmark. And my paraphrase of this is basically it's a jerry can with a solar panel on it. And it will provide safe water for a family for 7 years. And that cuts down the family's carbon emissions, etc., etc. And I think it's a really good international project that clubs could pick up on, and it doesn't cost the earth. Each unit costs $145 US, which I bought one today for the Rotary Club of Kerry, and it was £109.97. So that's just another idea, Solar Safe Water Challenge, to provide safe water, and it's in Kenya at the moment. I'm conscious, I just wonder if everyone on the call is registered on the DMS as your club environment contact, and if you're not, and if you are, could you please stick your name onto the DMS for communication purposes? I get around.
I mean, or if it's not the person that's on the call, maybe encourage whoever's leading on environment in the club. Yeah, I mean, it's people's personal. People can put these things on DMS or not. I think your point, Malcolm, my sense is that if not, it's more difficult than otherwise it could be in terms of getting this kind of fantastic information out to people to discuss in their clubs at the same time as clubs are saying, I wonder what we could do. Yeah.
And it saves me getting around from Kath sending a group email to every secretary in 1010. Not that it worries me. I'm just saying that because she's not in the call. I hope she's not watching the recording either.
I mean, we need to be more streamlined about our communications. You know, sometimes we can find ourselves in a lose-lose. We want to get all of this fantastic type of information out there, but there's lots of things, lots of bits of information that are also useful for clubs. And so sometimes the feedback from clubs is there's just a bit of overloading. and sometimes the feedback is we're not getting enough information, and that's not unique to Rotary. I mean, that's just life, isn't it? And it's certainly life in any big organisation. But yeah, we're trying to kind of streamline that through the vision and batching up communication, which goes out directly. But you're right, Malcolm, it's all a lot easier if we know who's responsible for what. Any last questions or comments? That's been incredibly useful. Thank you, Malcolm, and also thank you, Ken, for the earlier contribution. Huge amount of opportunities in this area, and it's so important as well, isn't it?
Steve, my president-elect, he's actually sourced a corner at the entrance to Blackburn. Can you come in, Steve, and give Heather a lowdown on that when the Rotary Field and obviously how to build on it?
Yeah, I contacted the local council, Aberdeenshire Council, about a grassed area by the roundabout at the Aberdeen end of the bypass, and it was just at the entrance to Blackburn to see if we could create a flower bed like what I have seen at other towns where it's been done by the Rotary. And after a little bit of investigation, I found out that it was, we did get permission to do something. It was a bit late in the year to start it with the weather coming on, but the plan is to create a flower bed. And the initial idea was to put in the crocus columns, but again, like I say, the weather beat us for that. So yeah, that's due to start next spring. But the big thing with that is getting it maintained. So that's something that I'll have to do a little bit of, let's say, arm bending on.
An ongoing focus for the club.
Well,
an ongoing service opportunity.
Well, you know our numbers. We're not going to be able to do it on our own.
I know. Partnership again. There's a recurring theme. Okay, I'm keen to bring this to a close and keep time. But Ken, you want to come in?
Just a final bit there to support Blackburn. Have a look at what Inverness Rotary did with a flower bed.
Oh.
I'm not expecting.
Fantastic.
If you do the same with Blackburn, brilliant.
Yes,
it was tens of thousands, wasn't it? Tens of thousands of flowers. It was amazing to celebrate their centenary.
I did actually see that, Ken, because that was one of the ones that inspired me, but I thought we'll never match that.
Well, I mean, essentially that ultimately, I think, got led on by the council, but was initiated by Rotary. And again, it's just working with those who've got greater capacity than us, but we're working together. We can scale things up, which is probably quite a good point to end on, which is the summary really of our discussion, isn't it? That there's lots of things that we could be doing at all different types of scale. And thanks, Barry, for suggesting that, and thanks, Steve, for giving us an update on that, because that is exactly the kind of thing that we'll be looking to do. And I'll look forward to hearing a bit more about whose arms you've been bending in an appropriate Rotarian way, of course.
Just in terms of ideas, just to highlight what Philip put on the chat about the ESRAG GBNI website. We have a post a day running through December about Rotary ideas, environmental ideas, and I would urge folk to have a look at that. Thanks. And can we pop that into the next environment focused input to the vision as well, please? That would be amazing. As with a summary of what's been talked about here with the link to the recording and the various other slides and things, that would be great. Fantastic. Yep, okay, brilliant. Right, so thanks so much for coming along tonight and asking your questions, making your contributions. Thanks to Ken and Malcolm in particular for bringing those ideas to the table. And stay safe. If I don't see you beforehand, have a good, relaxing Christmas, and look forward to seeing you re-energized in the new year. Bye now. Bye. You take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Ken, it probably needs to be tomorrow. There's a couple of reasons. One is my mouse has stopped working, so I can't turn the recording off. And
make me mute. Oh, you can't make me.
I can't do anything. Will I ring you in the morning?
That's fine.
Right. Okay. Thanks, guys. Night.
Yeah.
Right, Jim, I can't take you off because I
How are-
can't.
Hi, I'm on now. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I need to go off to something else, but as I say, my mouse isn't working. So if you can just
Yeah,
pop
I'll
off,
click
that'll
off.
be it. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Okay,
Bye.
ta-ta. Bye.
Bye. Bye.